What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Inner You podcast with your host, Joel Valenzuela. Unfortunately, my lovely wife can't be with us today. She has to work. Darn you, work. But she's here in spirit and heart. She'll get home later today, help me edit this podcast, but she can't join us today. But thank you for still tuning in. Today, we have a special guest, one of my good friends, Terrance Sharp. That's not a
Hi,
nickname. That's his last name. That's how cool he is. Terrance Sharp. Welcome in, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. Hanging in there.
Excellent. Excellent, bro. Well, so why Terrance? Why do we have Terrance Sharp here with us here today? Well, the biggest reason is ever since I met him, he has a profound appreciation for plants. Is that a good way to, summarize that, Terrance? A profound appreciation of plants, or how would you summarize your love for plants?
Bit of a fanatic, it's a problem. They don't have a group yet I can talk to, so I figured I'd talk to you about it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. We'll create a AA meeting for a PAA meeting. I don't know what the proper acronym would be, but thank you for coming in. So yeah, so his passion is plants, and that's such a huge thing nowadays. It's become even a trend to a certain extent. But I know from the bottom of your heart that this is not no trend for you. This is your life. You appreciate and love plants for so many reasons. So to get started, to get our listeners or viewers a little intro, just very simply, what's your origin story? How'd you get into plants? Why is this your passion?
Um, it's funny, man. I didn't even grow up like gardening with my grandma or with my mom. Uh, I was just 90s kid watching TV and eating cereal. But around the time, I don't know, I was about 14 or so. Um, a family friend of ours she cleaned houses on this estate,
Okay.
and at the estate, the gardener needed a little help during the summer.
Wow.
So she told my parents about me, and then I went and I just worked, and I don't know, I just felt at peace in the garden, whether it's pulling weeds or doing anything.
Wow. So it started with that, helping out in a state. And how did it grow from there? How did it become, because again, I met the version that we see today, but how old were you at this point?
Then I was about 14.
You're like 14. So how did it grow from like, okay, this is peaceful to like, man, like, let me research this, let me get more into this. How did it evolve?
Well, so that's funny. Um, so yeah, I was working there. I really enjoyed it. Then in high school, for some reason, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do plants. So I studied auto body for
Interesting.
three
Okay.
years.
Was it
Yeah.
because you felt like you'd be kind of judged if you were in plants? Is that the real reason?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird,
It's not
just get
weird,
into
Terrance.
plants.
It's not weird. So you went to auto body. Okay, then what happened?
And then so towards the end of my school, um, I just figured there was this garden center that needed a little bit extra help. And I figured, hey, maybe I'll give plants a try again. So I worked at the garden center, and my job was literally just watering the plants. So I made a plan to memorize each name because I would have the same route every day, and I would
Interesting.
memorize each plant. And throughout, that summer,
Just
and
cause, or I'm gonna learn these plants, or just cause. That was
um, yeah, because because I'm crazy, Joel. Like, I wanted to learn. I wanted to see a plant, be able to identify it, and kind of like know what I'm seeing. You
No, that's
know.
not crazy. That makes total sense. Honestly, not when you break it down that way. That's the reason you wanted to be able to like be walking around a Home Depot, like, oh, I know that's a, you know, waterphalia or something. I don't know what a real plant name is, but uh, okay. So did that work? Did you end up memorizing them?
Yeah, it did. And then around that time, at the same time, so my we didn't grow up outdoorsy. We didn't grow up camping or hiking or anything.
Mhm.
You know, my parents, they're like, why camp when we have a house to sleep in? You know?
I mean, it makes
So
sense.
around that, I mean, really.
That the immigrant mentality, bro. My family was the same, bro. Like, ¿pa qué? For what?
Yeah. You
Why
know
do you want
how
to
it is.
suffer?
My dad, exactly. Yeah. But so around that time, I also started hiking a lot more. And like
Okay.
I would buy little field ID guides and then just kind of look at mushrooms and different, just different things in nature and just I just became fascinated with it, you know.
Wow. So you, it's just for me, it's just crazy the influence of a singular person that just needed some help. Just create this like branch of your life that now it defines you almost at this point where it's like part of who you are now is plants. And like when I think of Terrance, I think of plants. Like it's just it is what it is, and it's a good thing. It's a great thing. It's just crazy to me, like the idea that the impact a singular person has in your life, even though they don't even know, maybe they don't know of it, how much they impacted you. But look at you now. So how much so did it impact you? Like what happened in college?
So yeah, so then I got out of school and then I said I was like because I grew up right south of DC.
Okay.
And in our area, there's a lot of botanic gardens. There's so much National Botanic Garden, National Arboretum, and all
Oh
those
wow.
things are free. So um, I would go, and then I realized, the guys that take care of this, the horticulturists and even botanic garden, the botanists, they went to college. So
Oh. You're
I
like,
figured I would
ding.
go to college, yeah, with the goal of studying plant science.
Wow. So what's like the legit, like what'd you get? Like what's your major? Like what is that? Like for anyone out there listening to this and then like, I didn't know there was such a thing. So what is that?
So originally I went for plant science
Okay.
and but then I had some goals and some things kind of change in my life. So
Okay.
then I went and I cut it short and I just got a degree in horticulture.
Herd a culture.
Horticulture.
Horticulture. Sorry. I'm like, you study the herd like cows? No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So okay, define that. Well, again, simpleton like me. What does that mean to me? What is that? What is that exactly?
Horticulture is like the cultivation of plants.
Oh, okay.
So I still like, botany, like the real science behind the plants.
Mhm.
But horticulture is kind of when you're putting it into practice, be it at a
Oh.
nursery or at a garden. The horticulturist, that's who's designing well, sometimes it's a landscape designer, but that's the person who you go to at the garden that really is kind of directing things.
Oh, so to again for simplest term, you're like the director of an orchestra, but for plants. Is that like is that a good illustration or no? Am I completely off?
Yeah, you're kind of like the caregiver of the orchestra director. No, no, what you said's better.
I love it. I love it. Interesting. Okay. So again, so in your head, when you reduced your, college life or that aspect of your life, you got your associates you mentioned.
Mhm.
Excellent. And what, doors would that open in your head for, potential work or did you just at that point, for your own benefit, I just want to learn this.
Nah, man. At that point I was hooked. So I love plants. I was like, I want to work with them
Nice.
every day. I want to be surrounded by them on the weekend,
Oh, that's awesome,
So
bro.
uh, I just my goal was like in our area, like I said, we have all those gardens and things and attractions that people go to see. Just
Mhm.
taking care of one of those.
That would be like your ideal, serving Jehovah and then boom. during the week, I take care of plants.
Hmm.
Dang, that does sound like a
But
peaceful
Jehovah
way.
had something else in mind.
Exactly. So my next question is, how did what you learned affect the way you see the plants? Like, for example, did you learn something that for like opened your eyes to something you never appreciated before? Like th- taking that door of college gave you a tools that maybe a normal person doesn't have, and what tools were they?
Um, I guess the one thing that helped me to just kind of see plants is um you get to see like the intricacies in nature, because sometimes like when I wasn't really paying attention, it's like, oh, it's a green tree, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. That's true. Wow. Okay.
But it's like then you kind of get to know the plants a little better. And then you're like, oh, well, that green tree, like I'm just thinking about a walnut tree in my mind,
Yeah, yeah.
not only gives fruit that feeds wildlife, it has a nice colored wood that people make musical instruments with, furniture, you name it.
Wow.
It drops leaf litter that then decomposes, and then, the trees get fed. And then not only that, but it has a special chemical that keeps certain plants away called, well, they call them juglones.
Wow.
So it's like just in that one tree, you see the different things they have.
Snap, Terrance, you just dropped a bomb there. Like, just made me think so in depth of something. That's so crazy. I didn't know that. So being able to, appreciate more so, if I would use a word as appreciate your surroundings, you're able to really see something for, what people like drive past every day or have in their yard. And you get to meditate on like, man, this is beautiful. Like, wow, like this is such designed work to think of all um the things this one plant does, or tree is a tree a plant? Is it is that a dumb question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those things. All trees are plants, but not all plants are trees.
Okay, I did not know that. Sure. So I went out there listening to this. Take that to note. All trees are plants, but not all plants are trees. Wow, that's pretty cool. So with trees in mind, Terrance, that's really, thank you for sharing that. That's so interesting. I didn't know how much value you could really take out like that for specifically like walnut tree you were mentioning. But now with that in mind, how do you feel with people? This is maybe like not maybe it's even a derogative term at this point, but how do you feel when people say like, "Ah, you tree hugger"? What does that mean to you? Does that like, is it
Oh,
fun? Like, is it funny? Is it like calm down? Like, what do you feel towards like people that have like this like negative connotation or view towards people who just appreciate plant life?
what's funny is that I was just talking to somebody today, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Terrence, you're a tree hugger."
Oh snap! Look at that.
But it's funny to me, man. To me, it's all about balance. I mean, to tell you the truth, it's like you understand the trees, and you understand, and just plants in general, and you appreciate their role in nature,
Mhm.
but they're not the only thing, there.
Yeah, I
It's like
understand.
we understand and appreciate them, but we appreciate other things too.
That's true. No, I like it. And I would argue against it. I don't think you're a tree hugger. I think you're a tree appreciator.
Thank you.
Because it's like, it's a means to an end, like you appreciate it, but ultimately, this tree is gonna build a house, or for for you, or oh, my bad, dropping my phone here. Like there's so many other things that this tree provides, but of course that also, there's an asterisk to that, because one thing is someone like you that, let's say, just to say the situation, you would go out there and make like a log cabin, and every tree that you cut down, or let's say, in this scenario, you would know and appreciate this, compared to a big corporation that's just chopping down trees like crazy in hopes for money. I think there's a difference, in my opinion. I'm not no, you know, sage or whatever to know what the right thing is, but I do think there's a difference. But now my next question we fall upon, Terrance, is again, because your view of plant life is different to mine. Now that I'm talking to you, I'm learning and appreciating even more so. But like, I'm trying to imagine a scenario. I feel like you value things way more and know a healthy plant versus a bad plant, and etc. How do you choose to buy a plant? Like, what do you define that? How do you choose?
Well, you know what they, well, what we say,
Yeah, yeah.
not all day, but people that like plants say is like right plant, right place. So I guess before I buy the plant, I look at the place. Like if it's in my room where we got a good level of we have a good level of a good amount of sunlight in the afternoon, but no light in the morning, or in my kitchen where there's almost sunshine all day. It's like, what does the plant need?
Wow. Okay, so you pick a setting. Now I can imagine, again, wild goose guess here, that one setting though applies to multiple plants. They're not just like one plant that applies to that setting, correct?
Exactly. So then after that, honestly, I'm not much of a flower person. I like dark green leaves. So after that, like say in my more so shady room, then I kind of look at my shade tree options. It's like if it requires like a lot of maintenance and a lot of attention, do I really have time to give it that? Or
Yeah, I
do I
guess
want to
you.
go with something easy like a pothos or peace lily,
Interesting. So for you, it's not whether or not this is just like a pretty plant. I guess that's the word for, I guess, girls. A pretty plant or a beautiful plant, whatever the right wordage is for this. Um, you focus on other aspects of it, like one, longevity, if you're able to take care of it. And you focus on more plants than flowers. Why is that? Why don't you like, what is, why not?
That that's funny, man. You know, I don't, it's something weird. I just like green foliage. Like, even in the greenhouse, I'm not as much worried about having fruit and flowers. I just like having the green rainforest look, you know?
Oh,
It's just something calming about that kind of green rainforest vibe.
I like it. But have you ever owned? Is it a flowers plant? Is that the right word? I don't know.
I have owned orchids before.
Are
I always
orchids really
like,
hard to take care of, or am I wrong?
it depends on the situation.
Oh,
Yeah. Depends on your level of humidity. Uh, One thing that I've seen that's helped me, because in the greenhouse we have like a whole orchid display, and it's like, I've found that it's the type of medium I put it in, because the orchid roots, they're really not like underground roots.
okay.
They more so take in like water vapor and things. So one thing that we've done is change the medium. We put mostly like orchid bark and wood chips, and then we just put it somewhere where it can be moist and take in the humidity, and they've done really good.
Interesting. So again, I think I understood what medium is, but what is medium for, again, for people who have no idea what we're talking about?
Oh, medium, the plant's got to grow in something. So
Hmm.
soil, most plants, you like grass outside, it grows in the soil.
Hmm.
Then hydroponics, they grow in water. You go to like orchids, a lot of times grow in bark. Some things grow in different types of moss. So it's what the roots are growing into.
Excellent. Oh wow, you went way deeper than I thought. But yeah, excellent. In my head, I thought the answer was like, no, that's good. No, that's good. I thought the answer was gonna be like, oh, that's soil. But you went even deeper. I love it. I love it. So you had orchids, and do you mean like you possessed them, or do you mean like the greenhouse orchids you're talking about?
So I have some that I've possessed, but
Oh,
the most success I've had is with the greenhouse orchids.
yeah, because of the whole humidity you're mentioning and all that good stuff. And now, what defines a happy plant for you, in that opinion?
Um, like we talked about balance,
Mm-hmm.
not overwatered, not underwatered, not too
Snapped.
much sunlight, not under the sunlight,
Snap. You sound like Mr. Miyagi right now, bro. Balance is the key. Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you maintain that balance? Like, how have you, is there a science to it in your opinion? Like, it's not as easy to say like, oh, it's 1 cup of water, every 2 hours. Like how, I know that's too much, but like, how would you break it down for the common folk?
Honestly, man, my first thing is know the plant. And once you know the plant, you might do research. You might understand that this succulent doesn't need water every day,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, whereas this plant that's in full sunlight in the summer might need water like every day or two. Um, so get to know your plant. And then if your plant looks bad, start with your basics. Like plants need water. So if it doesn't have water, there's an issue. Or if it
Okay,
has too much, maybe you should back off a little bit, you know?
okay. And do you think there's like a range of like safety? Like for example, let's say I have again, I'm trying to think if I'm the average Joel. I'm the average Joel, and and I have a plant, and I'm trying to water it. I'm sticking my finger in the soil. I'm like, I think it needs some water. Boom, and then how long does it actually take to kill a plant? Is it? I feel like again, the average Joel sees a couple yellow leaves, freaks out, or is gone for the weekend, is a little dry, and they toss it. Is that the right move?
That's another one. It all depends on the plant, man.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Okay, so what tip would you advise? Just on a very just the average median level.
I would advise don't be so quick to give up. Um,
Okay.
I was back home for a month and I had my roommate take care of my plants and he just got occupied on some other stuff. Came back and there were yellow leaves. There was
Oh
stuff
gosh.
all over the
Just
place.
a big tear of Terrance just fell down his cheek when he got home.
But I just instead of throwing things out, I just pruned it, gave it a little water, give it a little time. Don't expect That's one thing I've always liked about plants is the patience. Like you can't really expect them to change overnight.
Hmm.
So don't be afraid to just be patient with it.
I like it. I like it. So then on the opposite scale, what do you define as a dead plant? Like, how at what point are you giving up on this? Okay, this pobrecito, it's a goner.
Oh, I mean, if you look at it and I mean all the leaves are like withered and it
Interesting.
hasn't grown in months, yeah, toss that thing.
Toss that.
On to the next
Toss
one.
it. Pobrecito. So now, again, you would know better than I do. What plants would you recommend for a beginner? What type of plants would they buy?
I would recommend a snake plant.
A snake? Is
Um,
that the one you gave me? Is that the type of snake plant? Or no?
no, man, I gave you a ZZ plant that
A
time.
Z? Oh yeah, yeah. Cause that's why I named her Sambumafu, a ZZ plant.
How's that doing, by the way?
Oh, bro, I actually have it here. The reason I brought it out. So, just
Oh
for
my
all our
goodness.
YouTube watchers who eventually will watch this, I got married and I left my sad Zabumafu, unfortunately, in my old place. And no one lived in that place for like 6 months or something. And I couldn't get it back I didn't live there anymore. But I went to rescue her, Zabumafu, or him, whatever. I don't know what sexual orientation this plant has, but I I have it here. My lovely wife painted this beautiful pot here. And for all our YouTube viewers, if you're not following us on YouTube, follow us. She painted this pot, but it's that depressed. I've been trying to revive it for a couple months now.
Oof.
I think it's dead. I brought it so you as a doctor, a plant doctor, you could assess what I should do with this.
I mean, you know, as a person who gave it to you, if you want to throw it out, put it out of its misery, I won't be mad.
So do you think it's, you know, it has no hope? It's still kind of like squishy, you know, like it's not like dry. It's, I don't know. Is that how?
I mean, that one piece, those two pieces it got left, I mean, they look green.
They're like a, you know, a shade of, there is green, you know, it doesn't want to stand up. It's just like, meh. You know, it's kind of depressed, not gonna lie. I keep rooting for him, her.
Literally.
Literally. Oh yeah, there you go. We repotted them in this big old pot, and it's not full of soil. If you can see, like it's deep, but you know, I didn't over soil it. Well, I mean, my wife did this, by the way. I'm not gonna take credit for this because my wife did this. She has a lot of plant babies herself, and she's better at it. And she actually dispossessed Ziba food from me because she said that I don't love it and I'm not taking care of it. But I didn't have it for 6 months, you know. I'm sorry. But it was doing great.
Life happens, you know.
It happens. It was doing great though, Terrance. I was like really proud. I was like, man, I'm taking care of this plant. I can have babies now. I'm just joking. I'm joking. Yeah, so that's one of my plants. But just on that note, Lynette and I are growing this avocado.
Oh man, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool, right? We ate that guac, and you know, we shaved it. We did the proper YouTube research to do this, and yeah, it's is this propagating, or what is this word for this?
Yeah, propagating.
Yeah, so I'm propagating it right now, and based on our YouTube research, it needs a lot more roots before we put it into soil. But it has a little what is that, stem? What's the word for that? Like it's growing.
Yeah, like it's got like a nice little shoot. Like it's
Yeah,
growing up like a nice growing a stem.
Yeah, nice little shoot. We're proud of. We don't have a name for the avocado, but for now we're gonna call her guac. But yeah. So, what's your best tip for propagating then? On that note,
Man, you're gonna hate me because
oh gosh,
again, dude, it depends on the plant. It's like some plants you divide, some plants, you know, like I take for example, like a succulent, right?
Okay.
A succulent, the leaf might just fall off, and if it falls on the right soil, with you know a little bit of moisture, it'll sprout.
Oh, wow.
Whereas some plants, like some ferns, you really have to divide the plant, take a piece of it, and then take it with you, you know?
It's not that simple to just like, you can't just go to Home Depot and just clip some, you know, little plants off, put them in your pocket and grow it.
I mean, it's got to be the right plant, you know?
Terrance is like, I'm not supporting it, but can I say I haven't done it though? Like,
can neither confirm nor deny. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny. Now, you've seen, you know, with social media rage and you know, all these like Etsy, you know, all this social media. How do you feel about, like, I would define it as, you know, photographer, I see it as almost a trend. I hope not. I hope it's not a trend. But how do you feel about this movement towards plants? You know, you see, like, I feel like there's usually more girls, but even guys as well, getting into plants. Do you support it? Are you kind of scared? Like, how do you feel towards that?
Nah, man, I support it. I'm with it. I
Yeah.
mean, the more people can get outside, acknowledge, you know, get to know more about plants. You know, I've just listened to different podcasts and talking to different people around here, just seeing how having something to take care of has helped them through the pandemic. I I support it, man, because I think people are just starting to see, you know, just that simplicity, just having something to take care of just helps the mind, you know.
That's a good point. It's a very like anxiety reliever, I guess. Like, it helps you calm yourself. It becomes an extension of yourself. And if you see the plant thriving, it makes you happy. But now how do you react if a plant isn't thriving? Should that affect you? How should you look at that?
Oh, I mean, if it's not thriving, do your best so that it can thrive.
Yeah,
Don't give up on it too quick, but if it's not, if it's about to die, you don't gotta hold on to it.
Sorry, Ziba, I might have to sacrifice you. So the reason I bring this, the question about like, how do you feel about this trend is, again, me as, I don't know about plants, the outer viewer, my concern is, why are you doing it? Is it for the likes? Is it so I can post it? My worry is that, I mean, I'm not sure if you can add to it even better than I can, but again, as a viewer, my worry is, well, you get all this stuff, and if you don't take care of it, you don't do it for the right reasons, again, in my opinion, it's gonna end up dying. And I guess I feel bad. Like I see like they're animals, they're alive. I feel bad for some reason. Is that a normal feeling, or am I overthinking this? What do you think?
No, you're definitely right, man. Because sometimes, I've even seen it with myself. You kind of get into something and then you go all in. And
Mm-hmm.
then 3 months later, you get busy doing something else and then you don't have time for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. There goes that balance again.
Balance is a key, guys. Whoever's listening to this, balance is key. And that's like so true. And I agree with you. Like it's it is sad, but I guess in a positive note, there's at least a try, and it's better to have these seeds or these plants trying to take care of than just sitting at a store, right? Where I don't feel like they get the proper attention, right? Or do you think they do? I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Some stores pay more attention than others, you know what I'm
Oh
saying?
snap.
But a lot of
So
times if they got it,
so who are we gonna shout out right now? I'm trying to get some sponsors. I'm just
hey,
joking.
shout outs, Adams, Fair Care.
That's funny. That's funny. Oh, yeah, and if you would give one piece of advice to these big consumer, you know, um, stores that sell plants, uh, what would you advise them?
Oh, I guess I'd advise that if because one of the biggest things I see, Quaid,
Yeah.
um, before working here in Bethel, where I am now, and working back home, is that a lot of times people will buy sick plants and then they'll take it home. They'll think, oh, it looked bad in the store. I can revive it. When the truth is, if
Oh.
you take a plant that has an insect or, you know, has a fungus or has a problem already, it might get over it, but you might be wasting your time. So I guess the only advice I'd have is just throw out those sick plants.
Oh, wow. And what's your first, again, the normal average stroll? What's your best advice or cues to avoid when buying a plant?
Well, if you see obvious insect damage, you might see kind of like white or dark colored little bugs, like indoor plants. A lot of times you'll see little mealy bugs, which is this kind of fuzzy little white bug.
Okay.
Um, if you see that, a lot of times those places have so many plants. They are growing close together, but you don't have to get that one. You can get another one. Another thing
Yeah.
is sometimes the new growth, you'll see it stunted or you'll see it even kind of burnt with a black color. You wouldn't want that. Too many yellow leaves, or even sometimes you might see like something fell on the plant or it's kind of broken into pieces.
Oh.
You know, those things they might come back, but sometimes it's not even worth it.
Especially because you're investing all this money in it and stuff like that. I can imagine, if you're going to invest, really value what you're getting into, especially if you're not aware, you're not as knowledgeable to be able to bring it back to life.
Mhm.
Interesting. So how do you feel towards, I guess, the business side of plants, and what do you think is the biggest issue with that capitalistic view on plants, and how does that affect the quality you feel towards the consumer or the person buying the plant. What do you think about that? How do you feel towards that side? I guess, is it the dark side of plants? I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Man, it's a necessary. I won't say necessary. It's necessary because honestly, we all love being outdoors, but at some point, somebody's got to make some money. You know what I mean? And one thing I do like seeing uh, is that, from that commercial side, they come up with some pretty cool stuff. They come up with some pretty cool plans, some pretty cool ways of doing things. So it's different ways to learn.
Like there's almost like a sense of novelty the way they're trying to find new ways to sell this same product. So they create new things that, again, for someone like you appreciate. But what is the dark side of that? What do you think are the negatives, I guess?
Oh, well, the negatives is just like almost like you said, just kind of being, riding that wave, seeing that people want to get into plants, just kind of throwing it at them, saying, "Oh, this plant will be great," knowing that it'll die in a week,
Oof.
you know. And this sometimes you just kind of see that stuff and you're like, yeah, that plant doesn't even live indoors. You know what I mean?
Dang. And that is that you think that's a common thing that happens, that because I'd say Home Depot or Lowe's or whoever's selling this plant, you feel like there's like some directive of like, hey, just sell, like Nimolo, like yeah.
Um, something funny. I'll give you an example. I was one day, I was in the Bronx and I was doing like some things and I went to like this little shop. I saw this plant that at Home Depot is like $20, but in the Bronx it was like $10.
Oh wow.
Took it home. Yeah. I took it home and then that thing just wouldn't grow. And I
Oh
was like, I was trying everything, wouldn't grow. It ended up dying. So I took it out. I looked at the roots, and the roots were in this was on me because I didn't look at it, but they were in like this little tape. It's like they had taped the
oh
roots so that they wouldn't grow out.
wow. And why do you think they
So
did that? Why did they do that? What's the purpose of that?
probably what they did, because I thought about it later, is sometimes when you start seed, you don't really start the seed in a big pot. You kind of start it in a small starter pot.
Oh, okay.
So that was probably the starter pot, and they probably just planted it directly into the big pot without taking it out. So the roots couldn't go out into the soil.
Oh, just the easy way. Just put it back in a big pot and forget about it.
Just keep it moving.
Yeah, hopefully it would rip through the duct tape or the tape out of there. Like, dang,
Yeah.
that's messed up. Now, I know we had this conversation once before out of camera. I don't even know what the right word is, but I remember that you're really passionate about it. Um, we talked about how the world has different climates, different orientation of Fahrenheit, humidity, and all that, and that capitalistic side of it tends to, I'm gonna grab this plant from the Amazon and I'm gonna take it to Arizona and grow it. Why do you think they do this? Is there any solution to this? What do you think?
Um, well, sometimes they do it unknowing. They see a cool plant here, and then let's say they see that cool plant in Arizona, they bring it to New York, and then they have no idea that that plant actually sees itself really easy. It becomes invasive and starts destroying, you know, part of
Snacks.
the ecosystem.
Isn't that how
But
buffalo grass was formed in the United States? Am I wrong?
so many things, man, not just that. I mean, yeah, it's just like that bamboo grass. Um,
I didn't.
so many, they're wild roses.
Oh wow. So that's the detriment, right? You take a plant that you think is pretty or whatever. I'm gonna take it to my apartment in the Bronx or wherever you're at, Manhattan, and it becomes territorial essentially, and it becomes just devouring everything else. So how do you avoid this? How do you stop this consumer or this person to do this? Or what advice would you give before they make such a decision?
Uh, honestly, man, just try to get to know your plant. Just because honestly, man, you know how they say like knowledge is power. Just know what you got, know how to take care of it, and then you'll do, give it the proper attention, and then you'll do great.
Excellent, excellent. I love it. I appreciate it, Terrance. You're spewing so much knowledge today. I'm really grateful. I really appreciate it. I have a random fact that I again, for these podcasts, I try my best to kind of understand your world and what you appreciate, things like that. And one fact I found that I was moved and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I didn't know this, was that, again, correct me, am I wrong? Because it seemed like a legit source, but again, I didn't triple fact checked it. So, anyone listen to this, I'm sorry if it's maybe slightly off, but per this blog slash, plant enthusiasts website, said that only 1% of rainforest plants have been studied for medical potential. It says, given how valuable plants can be medicinal, the rainforest houses a host of possible cures of ailments, new and old. This untapped resource could still hold the key to medical breakthroughs. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think, one, is it true? Do you think this is legit? Do you think 1% of the rainforest hasn't been studied for medicinal purposes? And what does that mean for us?
Um, honestly, man, the percentage, I can't say, but I do truly and wholeheartedly agree that really plants have such use like medicinally, and that really doesn't surprise me that those rainforest plants may cure ailments that we just haven't tested those plants yet,
Mm-hmm.
or we just haven't really given them the time, but they do so much good.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because again, in my head, again, as a common viewer, I hear this stat and I'm like, like then go research what the, like there's so
Yeah.
many diseases, there's so many issues. Why do you think that isn't the case?
um you know so some of it is the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Oh yeah,
And some of it is, in truth, it's easier and it's more effective to just take the medicine, like willow trees. I'll give you an example. Willow trees have that. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe the chemical is called salicin,
okay.
right? Natural pain reliever. You could either have the person drink the tea, or they could isolate that chemical and put it in a pill. And a lot of times it's just simpler and more effective to put it in that pill.
Oh, and
So it all depends.
again, I guess the key is balance. But again, I'm always just astonished of the idea that, if it hasn't been researched, for me, if it's been researched and there isn't a benefit, then okay, at least we know. But the idea that we don't know is kind of like interesting to me. Like, I understand the efficacy and that what you just painted there, that it might be easier this way. But what if there's certain components that these plants release or produce that somehow in their makeup are combined, that normally in a medicinal or in a pharmaceutical sense isn't something that naturally happens, and we didn't know these things combined together can fix such thing. And my head is, if you don't research it and you don't know, like, oh wow, this whatever carbon whatever combined together naturally in this plant can be a solution that we didn't know before for such ailments. I just think it's so interesting that things
It
like
is
this
interesting, man.
just takes you back, right? So again, there's a lot of things to learn, and who knows, again, the system of things is kind of crazy, but it is what it is, right? So we're gonna divert this conversation a little bit more lighthearted, and this is just by means of sheer entertainment. In your sense, in your criteria, what's in your perfect situation? Let's say money wasn't the issue. What does your perfect greenhouse look like?
Oof, man. So those that are listening that know about greenhouses will want to kill me because the key to a greenhouse is good sanitation, right? So you don't want, you know, a rainforest in the greenhouse. But if you just let me just have my space, I would probably still have the greenhouse, right?
Yeah.
But my plan would probably be to have different layers. So I'll have some low growing plants, have some kind of like middle growing plants that have nice long green leaves, and then have trees at the top.
Dang.
Um,
That sounds pretty cool. So, okay, again, for me, I didn't know this, rule. Apparently, whoever's listening that loves greenhouses and stuff, I didn't know that you shouldn't have like this, Amazon feel to it. Why is that?
because a commercial greenhouse, and this is where we get into like we had talked about, you go to the store and you buy a plant with disease. It's the same with our greenhouse here. You're giving optimal growing conditions for the plants, right?
Oh, I get it. I know what you mean.
But the way things are, you're also giving optimal growing conditions for bugs and for fungus. And because everything grows in such a tight space,
Spreads.
it just passes from the plant. Yeah, it's just like COVID.
Oh
you know.
gosh. We don't say COVID on the show. It's the vid. The vid.
Oh my bad. Like the
Just-
vid, you know what I'm saying?
No, you're good, dude. We'll see if we get banned. It's whatever. I'm just joking. That's interesting. So I like it. I like it. I respect it. And again, where are you situated? Do you have like a chill spot, a hammock, like, or do you not like? How do you normally appreciate your plants?
Yeah, I got two spots. So I have one spot that there'll be some kind of water feature. So,
Yeah.
you can kind of hear the water.
Nice.
That's the chill spot. That's the reading spot. So,
Nice.
sometimes you like to sit up when you read.
I like
And
it.
then in the back, that's where, the hammock is. And that's just the kind of chill, surrounded by trees. You kind of got your own little cove there.
Nice. Can you like live in a place like that? If you could somehow copy and paste a home and have a greenhouse in the middle of it, would you do that?
In a heartbeat, man.
Yeah. I love it,
In
man.
a
That's so
heartbeat.
cool. I mean, like again, as a just seeing how much you love plants and all this, like it makes me want to like, man, I should get into this too, man. This is so cool. Um, so I can imagine how like appreciate, I've learned a lot of appreciation towards these plants. So now we're almost, getting to our concluding segments here of our show. But I have one last question for you, or a couple last, like two more questions. But is there a place you haven't traveled yet, or more so, is there something you appreciate that again normal people don't, or the average person doesn't appreciate, that you would travel just to this specific location for their plant life, for etc., flowers or what have you? Is there an area in mind that you have that, man, I haven't visited, but because of this I want to go visit it, and why?
Believe it or not, this may hit you by surprise or may not. New Zealand has, I love ferns, and they have tree ferns. So they're,
Interesting. I didn't know that
you know,
ferns can get that big.
yeah, it's weird because ferns are kind of I don't really want to, we don't have time to get too much into specifics, but their makeup just they're different than the regular trees we see. So those tree ferns that they have down, there are some too in Brazil and in tropical areas, but in New Zealand, they've kind of taken that cool humidity and just gotten huge.
Oh, wow.
So I would love to see those. It's just like a fern that you see on the ground, just huge and way up.
Dang. That's pretty cool.
20
I did
feet,
not know
30.
that. That's actually, I expected like the tropical forest of Brazil or something, like it's cool. I like that
That
answer.
too.
New Zealand. So for ferns, and is there a specific spot? Is there somehow like a national forest or a national fern spot that you have an eye on that you want to go check out one day? Or no, I'm asking too much questions.
Nah, man, I'm still looking. I'm still looking. I even tried to grow my own tree fern. It ain't work out.
Oh snap! It has to be colder or something, or what? It has to be higher elevation or something.
So that tree fern I bought, and then I think I went on vacation, or for whatever reason it didn't get watered for a while, and then it just
Mm.
died.
Ah, dear. Rest. We're gonna have a moment of
Yeah.
silence for all our plants that have died.
Happens to the best of us, you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to those friends. I love it. I love it, man. Okay. So now, how do you express this passion to others, bro? Again, I kind of know the answer to this because again, we're good friends and we, hung out. And I love asking these questions in person. That's how I created this podcast because I enjoy having these types of conversations because I'm really interested in people's passions. And I knew right away that plants are your passion. But how do you share that passion with others?
Honestly, man, I just tell people it's like ain't nothing wrong in going outside and just looking. Like just take your time to see the different shapes um and just last week I went with three other friends and we went to this park and we were just looking at how large the trees were, and it's like just take your time to look at it. Um One thing I try to do around here is I just show people, the different types that there are, but then how each different one has their different role in nature, that we know of. There's a lot of stuff, that we don't know that the plants do, just like we talked about the medicinal thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's how I try to share my enthusiasm. Just take your time to notice them, sit by a
Nice.
tree.
I love it. Like, that's like a good piece of advice, right? Right there. Just sit down and meditate on how complex, even though you pass them every single day, how complex these, plants and trees are. Man, you dropped some knowledge there. I appreciate it. So, anyone out there, if you're driving around in your car, taking a jog, taking a walk, just stop for a second, look around, choose a tree, choose a plant. Don't cut the leaf off. Just observe the leaf and the complexities of it. I love it, man. That's really good. So we're almost done. I know that you had to move because of the internet situation. Um, but the next segment is called Express Yourself. I'm gonna hopefully get the rights to play that song. Express yourself. That's
Okay.
after I say that, but I don't have the rights to it just yet. I'm just joking. We'll figure it out. Anyway, this segment, if you listen to our podcast before, episodes before, is essentially a segment where the person we're talking to, which is Terrance today, shares in this situation, I'm thinking a plant or a story or something that they value that the average person does not. So my question to you, do you have such a thing, or do you have a story, something that, again, maybe the first plant you had, things like that? Is there anything that you have that we can have for this segment?
Man, you really got me thinking. I mean, I just honestly, man, the only thing I think back to is, um, I remember one time I prayed and I don't know, Jehovah. I mean,
Yeah.
I must have been frustrated that day, and I just said, Jehovah, all I want to do is study plants and serve you. And then I ended up, well, me, I was serving in Panama, and then I ended up coming back. I felt kind of lost. I got invited, here to New York to Bethel. And then after a while, I sat back and realized I'm taking care of the greenhouse. I take care of the plants here on site. All I'm doing is studying plants and serving Jehovah.
Dang, that's
So I
amazing.
just noticed he had answered my prayer, and I can only be thankful, man.
Man, what a beautiful piece right there, man. That's really good. I appreciate you for sharing that for us. Again, that's something that I remember you sharing with me before off camera, and it's such a beautiful idea, like admitting and seeing those gifts there. So That's pretty cool, bro. I appreciate it. And again, just to conclude, this is our pay it forward segment now. Is there anyone you think would be cool to have on our show? Someone that has a cool passion, anything they appreciate, they value, that would be good for the Interview podcast? Can you think of anybody?
Man, I'm gonna have to let you know. I got to think about it.
No,
I
yeah.
do have no. I do have a friend that crochets that's pretty good at it.
Oh yeah.
But
Sweet. Yeah, no. We'll you'll send me those deets later, and we'll put them on the show notes of our podcast. So again, the whole idea behind this is sharing the love to anybody, and our goal is to keep talking to people, getting to learn. And I appreciate it. I learn more, again, about life, and in this situation about trees and plants. And again, it grows my sense of appreciation, and hopefully those listening or viewing this gain that sense of appreciation as well. Just sit down, stop, and appreciate, man. So again, thank you for being on our show today, Terrance. Thank you so much, man. I wanted to do this with you for so long, man. I've had so many deep conversations with Terrance. It's not even funny. I just love talking
so
to this guy.
more to come.
Exactly, more to come, and maybe we'll have him later on episode 202 or something, to get an update on how his plant life is going. Before we go, tell us your plant situation. What's your makeup in your room? How many plants do you have? How they're doing, all that good stuff. I'm just curious before we go.
Well, you want to see it?
Yeah, man. If there's a way,
All
you
right.
won't disconnect or anything.
You know, let me see. I don't think I will. Should be okay.
Okay, cool. I mean, worst case,
So,
let me know. We'll find out.
okay. So in my room, I'll show you.
Nice.
So, I share a house with like 6 other people, right? So I can't take over the whole house like I want to.
No, of course. That's understandable. You can't take ownership of shared living quarters.
Exactly.
How many roommates do
But
you have, bro? Is it 3 or 4 or 2?
So right now it's and me and my roommate in one room.
Uh-huh.
There's a guy in the room next to us, and then there's a couple upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and there's another guy in another room. So
Snaps. Okay. So what is that? 5, 6? I lost count, honestly.
it's 6 right now, and then we're about to get a 7th at some point.
Respect, bro. Okay.
But honestly, so right now, if you can see it,
Okay.
I just got a pretty easy setup. I got that snake plant because here in my room is where you kind of get that shade.
Oh, okay.
Got that snake plant, just got a pothos, a philodendron, another philodendron, and a monstera.
Okay. Hey, Lynette has a monstera.
How's it doing?
It's doing pretty good, actually. We have it was a gift, and it started with like maybe 4 or 5 leaves, and now it has like 20 or something. It's doing really good.
Oh, dang. Nice. And then I got this like palm tree, and it's dark outside right now, but a lot of my other plants are out on the deck for right now.
Nice.
So in the winter, I'll bring them in.
Oh, nice, man. So thanks for sharing that. If anyone's listening to this, check us out on the links in the description, the show notes. You'll see this podcast in the video format, so you can check out Terrance's setup. Again, one more time, thank you, Terrance, so much for joining us. My God.
Always good talking to you, Hoy. You know
As
this.
always. Thank you, brother. So we'll catch you in the flippity flip, and next episode, hopefully my wife will be here and we'll be able to conversate, join us, follow us, ping us, whatever the sayings are for, podcast. I don't know. Follow us. Check our Instagram out, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you later. Peace.